We spoke last time about the midas. The way it is in the Beis HaMikdash. I can't get the screen. Okay, so we spoke about the way it is when coming into the Beis HaMikdash. There we go. And how okay. I share my screen. Now we got it. Okay. The technology, we got to get it right. Okay. So we spoke about how the Beis HaMikdash is the idea of bringing down, drawing down godliness into the world. And in the Beis HaMikdash, you have different levels of the energy of godliness, the way it's brought down. And that's why in the Beis HaMikdash, there had to be the three different parts. In a person, in the world, actually, the world is made up of three. Everything is three. The three worlds are Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. In a person, there's thought, speech, and action. There's the idea of inanimate, and then there's the world of education, and there's the world of life. There's always three. Everything is made up of three. In the Beis HaMikdash, there's three parts. There is the complete inside, which that's the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies, which that's all the way in the back. There's the Heichal, and then there's the outside, which is where the Mizbeach is. So if we'll go inside, this is the essence of godliness, the way it's revealed in the world, because this is revealed in the Torah, in this art. There's the Torah, the Sefer Torah, the Luchos that came from Hashem himself. When we're coming from west to east, on our right side, we have the Menorah, which that is the channel of chesed, kindness, drawing down. On the left side, we have Gvura, which is the channel of, that's the Shulchan, that's the channel of Gvura lifting up. We put the showbreads on the table. In the middle, we have Tiferes. We have the Mizbeach, the golden Mizbeach. That's the idea of how it comes, where it's connected to the essence, that's Tiferes. And then Malchus is on the outside, that's the Mizbeach, and that's what elevates the physical world. And like we spoke about, there's the Ulam. The Ulam is the hallway that goes into the Heichal. And over here you can see the two tables. The two tables are Netzach and Hoid. And as we can see over here, you have the golden vine that's on the doorway of the Heichal, but by the doorway of the Ulam. And that's the idea, the concept of Yisayt. Now, let's look a little bit more at the Menorah itself. The Menorah, many people draw the Menorah with rounded branches. Now, there are some opinions that say they're rounded branches, but both Rashi and the Rambam say that it was straight diagonal branches. The reason people took the rounded branches was because on Titus's gate, there was a carving and engraving of a Menorah with rounded branches. Now, the truth is that the Menorah and the Beis HaMikdash, everyone heard about, and everyone tried to make similar things, but they wouldn't make exact replicas. Even in Eretz Yisrael, where people wanted perhaps to make pictures or engravings of the Menorah, number one, most people didn't see the actual Menorah. There were more than one. There were various different candelabras in the Beis HaMikdash. And in general, when they would make an engraving, they would take whatever they were able to get. And not necessarily did they want to make the exact engraving of the Menorah itself. However, we do have the tradition, which was Stantas, which is much bigger than what the archaeologists can discover, because nothing is certain in that, but the tradition, both by Rashi and the Rambam, is that it was straight branches. Now let's look at the menorah, the way it was built. First of all, you'll see over here in front of the menorah, there was a stone with 3 steps in it. The kohen would go up on it in order to take the ashes out of the menorah in order to light the menorah. Now the menorah was not nearly as high as the mizbeach. We learned the other day about the mizbeach. The mizbeach, you can see a person standing here. The mizbeach is more than double the height of a person. The menorah, on the other hand, was actually shorter than a person. The menorah is about, if we can say meters, it's around a little more than 1.5 meters. So it's shorter than the height of a person, but yet the Torah says go up, so therefore it was a stone with 3 steps where they would go up in the menorah. Now let's look at the 18 tefachim of the menorah. The 18 tefachim, could be said each tefach is about 8 centimeters. So that would be about 128, about a meter, less than 1.5 meters, 1.30 meters around for the height of the menorah. The bottom of the menorah, there was a base with 3 feet. Right by this base, you can't really see this in this drawing, there was a flower. In the menorah, there were 3 important elements that they had, which were there to beautify the menorah. One was the gvim. There was the most of those. There were 24 of them. Gvim is upside down cups. We'll see soon why they were upside down. They were cups, as you can see, that are wide at the top and narrow at the bottom, but they were upside down. Then there were the kaftorim, the buttons. There was 11 of those. And they were a bit oval shaped, but rounded at the edges. So it wasn't a total circle, it was oval shaped and rounded at the edges. And then there was the prachim, the flowers. The flowers were like a bit of a bowl, sort of, but like shaped like a flower, and they were all made with beautiful designs on them. So they were made with designs which would look like almonds on it. In each and every one of them. In fact, the branches themselves were also made with this design. We'll see soon a little bit also the deeper meaning of all of those. But let's look now at the 3 tefachim from the bottom, including the flower over here. Then you had 2 tefach empty. Then you had this 1 goblet, we'd call it, and 1 button and 1 flower. Another 2 tefachim empty. Okay, so that's all together now 3, 5, and this was all 1 tefach, that's 6, and here you have 8. Now, an important thing is you had now 3 buttons over here, which they were in between. The 2 branches would come out from a button over here, and each time the button was 1 tefach. The 2 branches came out on either side. Then there was another tefach in between, and again a tefach with the branches in side, and again a tefach in between, and again another tefach with the 2 branches. Altogether, you have 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then altogether was 18 tefachim. So the extra 5 tefachim, there was 2 tefachim empty, like between every time, and then the last 3 tefachim is where you had what you had on each one of the branches. 4 goblets, 1 button and 1 flower, and then over here is the lights of the menorah. That's the way the 18 tefachim of the height of the menorah. Another thing before we get to the flowers and the goblets and the buttons, the candles of the menorah were all facing the middle candle. Now, there's different opinions. Let's go according to the opinion of the Rambam, which is that although in the rest of the Beis Hamikdash, all the other kelim were placed their length to the length of the Beis Hamikdash. So here's west, here's east. They were at the length of the room. They were a little bit away from the wall. They weren't exactly by the wall. Here would have been where there was the curtain between the Kodesh and Kodesh HaKodashim, and these three were closest within the inner third of the room. The menorah was placed between north and south, which means that technically all of the lamps of the menorah could be facing west, but each one of them was facing the middle one. The middle one was facing west. According to the opinion was between east and west, the middle candle couldn't be facing specifically west because it's between east and west, each one at different angles where they're facing west. So now, that was the way the menorah was lit. The significance of these buttons is a very interesting thing. You have the two branches on either side. The two branches, they symbolize the two aspects, the revealed and the hidden, the written Torah and the oral Torah, because the menorah symbolizes spirituality and Torah. The button is the concept that combines them and enables them to be combined together, and that's why it's not completely round. It's oval, and the idea of the oval button shows on the ability to combine these two aspects. The upside down goblets are because the menorah's purpose is to draw down light and energy into the world. And that's why the goblets are upside down, symbolizing that it's drawing down the energy and light into the world rather than being something which is upside right, which is to receive. The menorah, the purpose of the menorah was to give light to the entire world, and that's why the menorah is on the right side. Now let's look at the shulchan. The shulchan was on the left side. On the shulchan, they would put showbreads. The showbreads were, in a way, if you see here are the forms, they were baked. It was more matzah. It wasn't allowed to be leavened bread. It had to be unleavened bread. And it was made in a way that you can see through the bread. That's why it's called lechem apanim, because you could see through. Now, on the shulchan, you had to have 12 breads, and they were in 2 rows, 6 on this side, 6 on that side. The shulchan itself was 2 amas long and 1 amma wide. The table is 1.5 amas, the height of the actual table. And there's different opinions, but apparently, according to the pasuk in Yechezkel, the showbreads are another 1.5 amas, altogether 3 amas, the same height as the menorah. So now, the way the shulchan was made is the showbreads were put on every Shabbos. The old ones were taken off, and if you remember, here's the 2 tables. On the way in, they would put them on the stone table. On the way out, they would put it on the golden table in the ulam, and then they would give it out to the kohen. The kohen would eat it. This is in the ulam. The way they were placed is you had sides, frames on the side, 4 of them, 2 on each side, which were on the top. They had 3 branches on the top, and you had these half pipes that were going across the showbreads, 3 of them in between each level. So here you had 1 on the table itself, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the top one didn't need 3. 3 was enough to have 2 pipes because there was nothing else on top of it. It wasn't such a heavy weight. So this way you had 6 on this side, 6 on that side. You had 12 showbreads. On the table itself, you also had 2 bowls that had incense. So that's the idea of lifting up the showbreads, bringing them to Hashem, and that's why it's on the left side. And then you had in the middle was the mizbeach of the ketores. The mizbeach of ketores was gold, but it wasn't made fully of gold. It was made of hollow wood, and it was plated with gold. Now, it's very interesting. The Gemara points out that there was a constant fire burning on the mizbeach of ketores. We spoke about this yesterday. The fire of the mizbeach of ketores had to come from the outer mizbeach, which signifies also that for a person to have a fire in his godly service, it's not enough to have just the soul. In order to have the fire, it has to come from the physical world. And sometimes with the fact that we feel the distance from Hashem due to the physical involvement, But nevertheless, a person from the physical world, that's where he lights the fire, also the soul. Incense shows on something which is for the soul, because the Gemara says that what does the soul have pleasure from is smell. Incense is smell, unlike the outer mizbeach, which was eating food. The inner mizbeach had in the height was 2 amas high, so it was lower than the menorah, 1 amma lower than the menorah. It had also, like the outer mizbeach, it had the 4 horns, the 4 corners, the 4 horns on the 4 corners, made from it itself. And the entire diameter over here is an amma by an amma, because the entire square of the inside of the golden menorah was an amma by an amma, much smaller than the outer mizbeach. Over here, they would put the incense in the morning and in the afternoon. The poles, unlike many of the other kelim, there was only 1 ring on 2 of the corners, and the poles went along the corner in 1 ring, not in 2 rings, as in many of the other kelim. So that's the mizbeach hazav, that's the inside mizbeach, and that would be in the middle. As we said, that's the idea of tiferes. So here we have the general idea of the kelim. We'll go next time to speak a little more about the aron, which, as we'll see, again, just to get the picture, when you're going from the outside, you're coming from the outside, which is you're coming through the Azara. If you would be coming from Ezras Nashim, you're coming from the east. You come around the Mizbeach. If you're going to the Heichel, you go up to 12 steps into the Heichel. But you go in first, you go into the Ulam, into the hallway, something that the Mishkan didn't have. The Beis HaMikdash, which was established, had a hallway. The hallway was an empty space. You just went through up the steps. There was no door. There was only a curtain. The doorway was the entire 20 amas high and 40 amas, 20 amas wide and 40 amas high. So it was the biggest doorway in the entire Beis HaMikdash. It comes through it, and here you'd have the golden gates, which were 10 amas wide, of the Heichel. And from there you'd go in here through the gates or through the side door. There was a side door on either side, which was called a pishpish. We're going to learn about it later. But then you would go into the Heichel, and you would have the menorah on your right, the shulchan on your left. There's Mizbeach in the middle, making it look something like this, with the pareches and the aron. So please God, tomorrow we'll continue a little more about the inner aron.
Deborah, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What is that pole hanging down with the showbread off on the ceiling? That rope hanging down.
Which by the showbread?
Yeah, if you go into that other slide. No, the other one?
This slide?
No. Yes, there. Go.
Yeah.
No, not that. No. That, oh God, you keep.
Oh, this.
That pole, that's like a rope hanging down with a knot in the.
This was a great lamp. They actually put it in the middle in the second Beis HaMikdash. It was donated by Hilmi Hamalka. She was a queen, and she would be very. She would do things right in the Beis HaMikdash. We're going to learn about it later when we go into the Ulam. But this is a big lamp that actually, so that it reflected the sun. When the sun rose, and this way they can catch the first rays of the sunrise and know when it's time to light the carbon tummet. So it was a golden mirror, sort of, to reflect the first rays of the sunrise.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, be well.